Okay, perhaps we could start with Let There Be Peace on Earth, and I'll be at the piano. And it's number 3 if you want to look in the book. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Or maybe we should do statement of intent.
You go ahead. You do
I will do the statement of intent first. Okay. We continue to be fortunate to have a variety of speakers for Sunday services. By using guest speakers, we gain wisdom from all those who share. And this is a church community where we can worship the God of our own understanding, to experience joy and be uplifted, to gain strength and inspiration we can share with others throughout the week. And we invite you to join us in this celebration of life to nourish your spirit and to enjoy the community of kindred souls. And so, would you like to do some music now? I would like to open this to Kristy, and they have instruments here, and it's so fun. Okay.
Good morning. I'm so honored to be here with all the seen and unseen beings on Zoom and in the cosmos and love and light, right, Jerry? Eternally. I love your hugs. So I wanted to introduce myself. I know that some of you, lots of you have met me, and yet I haven't been here for a long time, and I've been up to a whole lot of new stuff, and a lot of the same stuff. So, but some of you know me. I have a massage practice in town. I've been working with Svelya Yoga. It's a new yoga teacher training program in school, it's a school, it's also a yoga studio, and it's trauma-informed yoga studio in Duluth. And welcome, welcome. The difference, I would say, between a trauma-informed yoga practice approach, look at these beautiful leaves coming in, it's fall. Maybe you can walk in front of the camera once to just show. Here, I'll show it. It's beautiful fall. is that they're really taking the approach of understanding that to really work through our trauma as collective trauma, as individuals and as a collective consciousness, that we need to become embodied, and we have to work through our trauma not just intellectually and through concepts in the mind, but that our trauma lives in our bodies. And so we have to get in touch with our feeling intelligence to be able to go in and through the body. So I labeled this talk In and Through the Body, Embracing All Change with Deep Listening and Embodied Wisdom. Embodying our wisdom, our inner guidance that comes from within, that we all have, that we access by listening within. So my name's Kristy Marie. This is my partner, Jordan. Jordan is the executive director of Lifehouse. And Svelya Yoga is housed in a building that Lifehouse owns. I don't know if everybody's familiar with Lifehouse. Maybe you want to come up here for a minute. You want to tell what Lifehouse is?
So Lifehouse is a nonprofit organization that works with youth. I think most people might know that. Homeless youth who are 14 to 24 years old. We have comprehensive wraparound services. So it's no cost, no service to our young people in the community. They don't have to be living on the streets for young people to access us. We are there to kind of help support them, to walk through whatever struggles they might be. We wholeheartedly believe in supporting our young people and helping them flourish and thrive in life. So happy to share more, but I'm just really grateful to be here and be with you all. So, and this work is so important to what we do every day.
So you have like, how many people do you help per year, say?
So on an average year, a yearly basis, about 800, 900 young people come through our door. We have a mental health and wellness team. We have 43 staff. We're probably one of the largest nonprofits in the area. We have about 6 mental health and wellness practitioners, licensed clinical social workers. We have a licensed teacher to help young people with their education. We have an employment program where they get paid to kind of learn job skills, which is our legitimate hustle program. And they sell candles. They have a business, Limitless Candles. They're online, so if you're ever looking for Christmas presents or presents, highly recommend. They're all environmentally friendly candles they make in our basement. We also just have a drop-in center where they come in, get a meal, learn how to connect with our staff. That's our hub. That's where we kind of capture them, for lack of a better word, and connect them to all our services. And then we have 50 units of housing in the area. And in 2023, that will go up to 82 units of housing. And part of that housing is a emergency shelter for youth 15 to 19 years old. And then we have housing for survivors of sexual exploitation and human trafficking. So we pretty much see it all. And again, it's a wraparound services. And when young people utilize our services, it's not one person who works with our young people. There's probably 5 to 10 people, and they are with us from 5 years to 10 years. We are their supportive adults and help guide them and never turn them away. We have a no eject, no reject policy. We recognize they make mistakes and keep coming back, and they do. So, yeah.
So I'm honored to have him with us, but I also feel like one of the things that I see, Jordan's been the executive director for a couple of years. And so originally, or I would say, prior to Jordan getting there, there was just some different approaches that were being taken that were really important for that time of that particular organization to get it to where it is now. But they didn't quite have the embodied wisdom through the embodiment of trauma that I see is starting to come, that they're infiltrating through the staff and through, hopefully eventually to trail into the youth, of understanding, growing the understanding, the growing understanding of what trauma is, how it is individualized for each of us differently. Um, it's a matter of perception. I could be traumatized from my brother taking cake away from me when I was 5, and it might be really actually super triggering for me. Somebody else, it might actually be something that's really severe, you know. But the way that we carry trauma in our body is something that I want to try to explore today with an experiential component, with deep listening, with music. So there's the Svelya Yoga is a totally separate organization that's housed in Lifehouse, but the yoga school itself holds classes for the staff of Lifehouse, educational opportunities for the staff to explore how the trauma that they're interacting with on a daily basis both gets stored in their bodies and the people that they come across, so that they can try to not keep engaging in the fight or flight, reactive, disembodied disassociation that happens when we're triggered. So if you're coming across triggers all the time and you're getting shot out of your body, basically, then we have to find a way to welcome each other safely and in safe environments back into our bodies. So I'm going to start with a song. I have these little sheets. I don't know where they ended up. Oh, there's some back here that if you didn't get one, you can have. So I'm going to start with Body Boat. And so those are the words. And for those of you that are on Zoom, please, if you mute your Zoom, you can sing along. It won't move the camera. So just as long as you're muted, you can sing. And the words are, if my body were a boat, I'd set my sail for the sun without sprouting a leak or hurting anyone. If my body were a boat, I'd set my sails for the sun without sprouting a leak without sprout and olive, or hurting anyone. If my body were a boat, I'd set my sails for the sun without sprout and olive. Or hurting anyone. Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe, oh Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe, oh Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Govinda, Radhe. If my body were a boat, I'd set my sails for the sun without sprout and olive, or hurting principles. Yeah.
Now we could read the principles. Okay. We believe in infinite intelligence. We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. We affirm that a correct understanding of such expression and living in accordance therewith constitute true religion. We affirm that the existence and identity of the individual continue after the change called death. We believe in our universal connection in spirit and that there is communication between spiritual and physical worlds. We believe that the highest morality is contained in the golden rule, whatsoever you would that others should do unto you, do we also unto them. And we affirm the moral responsibility of individuals and that we make our own happiness or unhappiness as we obey or disobey nature's physical and spiritual laws. We affirm that the doorway to reformation is never closed against any human soul here or hereafter. And we affirm the precepts of prophecy and healing, our divine attributes contained all sacred texts. And now for announcements. Jasmine, could you come up and talk about this letter that just went out? And this would be perfect. And so, thank you.
Good morning, seen and unseen. Our annual meeting is coming up in about a month on Sunday, October 31st. And our bylaws require that we have an annual meeting, and we do have to do some business. But it's, we'll get through it. It's just a formality. But it's a good time for us to check in, see how we're doing, especially after this very interesting past year. It's a reminder for us to renew our membership. Our bylaws require that we, in order to continue to be members, that we renew our membership each year. And this is a perfect time to do it because in order to vote for the elections for our Board of Trustees, you must be a member. And so if you haven't renewed yet, please do so. You can there are now some renewal forms on the back table. You can use those if you wish. Just fold your contribution inside. You can put it in a basket, give it to Carol or Sue or me or any board member. This year we do have incumbents for all of the seats on the board. However, that does not mean that other people cannot declare themselves as candidates. So the position of vice president is technically open. There are 2 trustee seats that are open. So if you would like to serve, you may approach Carol in this case and let her know, and your name would be added to the ballot. The only caveat there is that you must have been a paid member for a year in order to serve on our board. And there will be some other items coming along that we'll talk about as we get a little closer. Carol and I did put the letter announcing all of this in the mail yesterday, so you should be receiving it early next week. And when Phyllis McCoy was here recently, I told all of us that she was the carrot for the stick, and there are no sticks involved, but Phyllis will be speaking on that Sunday. And, the annual meeting is, as I said, is a formality that we go through once each year. So please come to hear Phyllis, to share conversation, to learn what has been happening over the course of the past year, because of course there were things going on even when the building was not open. And we have some interesting conversations to have about where we might be going in the future. So please plan to be with us either at home or on Zoom that Sunday. If you have any comments or questions after receiving the letter announcing the annual meeting and some topics for discussion, please remember, as Carol mentioned earlier, Zoom is not interactive. So that Sunday for the annual meeting, if there is anything that you would have expressed, if you cannot be here, please send the church an email. The email address is listed on the top of the letter. Please get that in at the latest the previous week, so we have time to read those and make some notes about how things seem to be tending. So that is it for today. Thank you for listening, and we'll be talking more soon about these topics.
Thank you, Jasmine. Would there be any requests for healing for anybody at this point? We could. Yes, Jasmine? I can't hear you. So, Jean Captain's Uncle Ted is very ill, okay? Prayers for her Uncle Ted. And yes. Okay, there's a Christine Oliver came to the church years ago, and she has a very rare brain cancer. Oh, Christine. Oh, she's had radiation and chemo, and it's killed her bone marrow for those sons. Okay, she's very vulnerable. She's had a transplant, but she's very vulnerable for those on Zoom. Keep her in our prayers. You bet. Anybody else? Okay. So I think I'm going to turn this over to Kristy, and I thank you.
So I would like to invite us all to sink in, find an easy seated position where you can feel your feet on the ground below you. I'm going to go into a meditation slash a little bit of movement through the meditation. So I'll try to guide you through the movements, and it's not going to be a lot. You don't have to get up for this, but you might need to move your arms a little bit and your neck. So we'll begin. I'm standing, so I'm going to try to go with you, but obviously I'm in a little bit of a different position, but in the same sense, we'll both be rooting down through your sits bones, allowing your belly to soften, finding that effortless breath that fills the bottom of your belly. Doing a body scan, noticing your feet, the way they feel on the ground. Climbing up to your knees, up your thighs, to your hips, your low back. Taking the opportunity to notice any discomfort that you might feel anywhere. Allowing whatever is present to just be there and be noticed. Whether it be joy, whether it be calming sensations, or even pain. Climbing further still up to our abdomen and our diaphragm, and imagining our diaphragms as they are 360 shaped muscle, separating our lungs from our abdominal cavity. When we hold our breath, the mushroom kind of comes up, and we want to drop that If it's got any tension, just try to bring some conscious awareness to the dropping of your diaphragm. Climbing your attention up to your shoulders, to your throat, to your jaw, your mouth and your nose, ears, crown of your head, and seeing if for a moment you might be able to find kind of a hovering of your head over your shoulders, your rib cage over your hips, a straight line from your sacrum up through the crown of your head. Breathing. And then dropping your chin to your chest. And falling your head to the side, kind of making either side, left or right, begin to make a very connected to your feeling intelligence circle towards your ear or towards your shoulder, your ear towards your shoulder. And then feeling your way down back towards your chest, centrally locating your chin towards your chest, and then falling your ear towards the other shoulder, pausing wherever it feels intriguing to you, anything that might want to linger, to maybe get a little more of a accentuated stretch, keeping your breath with you and moving at the rhythm of your own body wisdom, embodied presence, deep listening. And then finding your way back to center with your head hovering above your shoulders. We're going to inhale our arms on up overhead if you have range of motion. So any of these suggestions are not to create any kind of sharp pain in our bodies. Clasping our fingers like we have our pointer finger kind of shooting towards the sky. Inhaling, reaching a little slight arch in our slight back bend. And then coming back to center and then falling to maybe the left, the right. Inhaling on up. Exhaling to the other side. Inhaling up. And then cactusing our shoulder blades down, our spine, and inhaling our arms up on overhead. Palms come to touch and down to heart center. Taking a moment to just connect. With our own individual and collective healing requests, our own individual and collective intentions for peace on earth. And one more time, we'll inhale our arms up on overhead. Clasping our hands together, pointer finger on up. Exhale, and then inhale, reaching further up towards the sky, and then exhale, slight back bend. Falling to one side, keeping your breath with you. Maybe inhaling up, falling to the other side, exhale. Inhale up, and then cactus your arms down. Inhale your arms on up overhead. Palms come to touch, and down to heart center. And if your eyes were open, maybe closing your eyes as you hold your hand to your heart. Noticing your breath again. Integrating your mind with your body and heart, spirit and soul. Keeping your eyes closed, cupping your hands like you're going to receive an offering. Taking that offering and keeping your eyes closed, but rising your hands on up towards your forehead and kind of washing over your head this offering of self and presence. And then rising your hands back on up towards your eyelids and cupping your hands around your eyelids. And then opening your eyes into the palms of your hands. Noticing maybe some cracks of light coming through. Also noticing darkness. And breathing into that darkness. And knowing that sometimes we need to go into those dark places to see the cracks of light showing through. And as we slowly pull our hands away from our face, keeping our gaze onto your hands, taking in the room around you. So we live in a culture that holds a lot of weight and acceptance and kind of glorifying intellectual intelligence. And this is not a bash against intellectual intelligence. And the goal is not to eradicate intellectual intelligence. But to integrate and to maybe not hold it above intuitive intelligence. Which is very unpredictable, very not quantifiable. It's not linear like intellectual concepts. but it's not less than. So holding that for a moment and feeling that in your body and feeling where does the intuition come from? Where does it live? What are we listening to? The great who am I? So many times when our heads get a run of the show and our intellect kind of carries forward really far, one of the things that happens when we grow that muscle really, really strong is that we get kind of brought out of our body. We're projecting into the future, the past, and we're not in our body. We're separate. I've been studying with John Barnes, a myofascial release therapist, for the last 9 years or so. Done like 11 workshops with him, and he has a way of, he doesn't really ever even talk about the mind, because I feel like when our mind gets a hold of the idea of the mind, and then it's like, well, but I have a mind, and the mind is the mind, and the mind is the mind, and where's the mind? And it just like, it helps the separateness when we start to like really try to find where it is. So he calls the mind, or he'll point at his head, calls this channel 5. This is channel 5, and this is channel 3. So you just turn the notches down a couple notches. Or instead of just thinking about things, but also not trying to get away from thoughts, right? So we're not ever going to lose our minds. Our minds are always there, and they're great servants to us. They help us. That fight or flight and is a great survival tool. And our minds are great at helping protect us sometimes, and sometimes they forget what they're fighting for. So turning it down a couple of notches to channel 3, so that when you're listening to the great wisdom within, that you're almost just you're feeling intelligence, your body wisdom. You're listening from here. You're not trying to eradicate the brain. You're just turning it down to channel 3. So within that particular system of work, we talk a lot about the fascia system, which is the connective tissue, which is like kind of like a spider web that runs from head to toe. It is, the understanding of it is growing exponentially as to what role it plays in um, not only our physicality, but in our consciousness. When many doctors and scientists and people of all kinds that have studied the body would study the body, they would go to these anatomy courses in colleges, and they'd study on cadavers. And so, but one of the things that has often happened is that they would study the cadavers, they would take the fascia out and throw it to the side because they were interested in the muscle structure, the bones, the veins, the arteries, organs, all these things that we already know, like we know very well that like their importance, and kind of we could see it more clearly. But kind of like the concept where the answer lies in the question and the answer is right under our nose. And everything that we need to find in any single moment is with us. We don't need to go to Tahiti. We don't need to go. I feel like the pandemic has taught us all a lot about what's right underneath our nose. And like the principles say, we affirm the moral responsibility of individuals, and that we make our own happiness or unhappiness as we obey and disobey nature's physical and spiritual laws. So when they would take, part of the reason why they would take the connective tissue and throw it off to the side is because it changes so dramatically after a human passes away. And if we're studying on cadavers, it's almost impossible to really see what the fascia is doing when we're living. And so again, we'll imagine this fascia, this connective tissue that runs from our head all the way to our toes, uninterrupted. It goes through and around everything. So if there's any meat eaters, which I'm sure many people have seen meat if they don't eat it, but if you cut a chicken breast open, you can see like the white fascial fibers don't just go around the outside of the muscle of the chicken. It goes through them, kind of. So if you don't eat meat and you cut an orange, say, you have the white, you have the orange part, you have the white, and you have every little tiny little segment, there's connective tissue. And all the way down to a cellular level. It is the fabric that goes around every individual cell. And it has a bunch of, it's primarily fluid based when it's really, really healthy. It's primarily, it holds a lot of the hydration that we are, right? We're ideally 70% water or more. And when it's really hydrated and really healthy, there's this piezoelectricity that can travel on the fibers and communicate to the brain body movement connection that tells our body how to move. The connective tissue will come together when it needs to, It'll come apart when it needs to. It moves freely, and partly it can do that because all these little tiny strands, if they have a bunch of fluid, they're able to move freely. So one of the things that happens when that stops being the case for any reason, if we have surgeries or repetitive use injuries, the fibers will start to stick together and become kind of like a land mass. And that piezoelectricity, because it is electricity, hits the land mass and cannot get through. One of the only ways to unravel it, though, is to bring presence to it. So John Barnes calls I don't know if he calls it, but I took this away from his work and studying with him, that the fascia is the subconscious brain. So you have the intellectual, intelligent brain that knows and is right, mind you. And then we have the subconscious brain, which is what? What's the subconscious brain? It's what we don't know. And so we all have these subconscious holding patterns within our bodies. But this fabric and kind of like shock absorber of the fascia is not just holding the physicality. It's not just holding our organs in place and our cells in place. It's also holding our emotional things that have hit our being, anything that is of all the traumas and fun experiences. And it also gets stored there. So one of the ways that we can unravel the fascia is by making the subconscious conscious. So the feeling intelligence becomes way more of a actual tool to finding our way through everything physically painful and emotionally painful, and sometimes we can't even tell the difference, right? So I want to engage our brains a little bit, and I feel like we did you guys are very embodied, I feel like, group in general, and a meditative connoisseurs. So that it's not hard for you to go there in a way. But now we're gonna try to wake it up a little bit. Bring out our singing voices again. Go to the next song. We'll go to Please Prepare Me. This is a Christian-based song, or roots. It's got Christian roots. Can you hear me on this thing? Yeah. One thing that I always find with songs that, I like to find songs of every path that kind of transcend any kind of dogma, right? This is a really beautiful piece. Please prepare me to be a sanctuary tried and true, with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. I invite you to sing with me. Please prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Please prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
So as Kristy Marie was saying, there's Lifehouse is really good at doing and has a foundation that's been built over the last years around working in crisis and doing trauma-informed work. And I think one of the things that we're shifting and moving towards is centering healing in our work and really noticing how significant the body is. And so I'm a believer of, we have to model that for our young people. And so there's a place that I work with our staff, and I think through Saphalya Yoga and the work we do, and even the energy, instructors, people who are in that space, is healing our young people. So the more that we as staff and as a community tap into our sense of what's happening in our bodies, noticing our nervous systems, and slowing down. I came into this position in January 2020, and I said, I am not going to operate from a place of fear. I'm going to operate from a place of possibility. And so from being in a place of possibility and hope, it shifts to slowing down and noticing what's happening within my body and my staff's body, and then our young people.
And not just perpetuating the trauma response that kind of re-traumatizes over and over and over again, and holds us in a place of that trauma, because that's where we're comfortable a lot of times.
It's
We're-
familiar.
It's familiar. We're we don't for change, for great change to happen, we have to be okay with being uncomfortable. So sometimes when we go inside of our body, it might not be comfortable. It might be terrifying, in fact, or just super painful if we have chronic pain. But almost always, when you look at the ghosts and the skeletons in the closet, they're not there. The pain shifts and moves. Nothing is solid stone, none of it. So as we look at it, it's about making the subconscious conscious. We can't be afraid to look at it.
And listen to it. Like really listening to what's happening within our hearts and our bodies.
So, I don't know if it's time. Can I add one more song? I have this prayer. It's a closing prayer, but I'm going to sing, I'm going to end with a song, but as I'm a Sufi by initiation, so this is a Sufi prayer from Hazrat Inayat Khan. It's called Khatum. It's a closing prayer. It's, O thou, who art the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the Lord of heaven and earth, open our hearts so that we may hear thy voice, which constantly cometh from within. And here we go. We're going to say this part in your mind or out loud. Disclose to us thy divine light. 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 Disclose to us thy divine light, which is hidden in our souls, that we may know and understand life better. Most merciful and compassionate God, give us thy great goodness. Teach us thy loving forgiveness. Raise us above the distinctions and differences which divide. Send us the peace of thy divine spirit and unite us all in thy perfect, perfect being. This is a Rumi poem that I put to a song. It's your task not to search for love, but to search for the barriers inside of yourself that you have built against it. Your task is not to seek for love, but to merely seek all the barriers inside yourself you built against it. Your task is not to seek for love, but to merely seek all the barriers inside yourself you built against it. All the barriers inside yourself. You have built for love, but to merely seek. Merely seek. All the barriers inside yourself. You have built. You have built. You have built. You built against it. Oh, my love. 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 Oh, is here. Such an honor to be with you all.
Thank you, Christy Marie and Jordan. How beautiful. Would someone like to bring the offering up here? And then I'm going to play number 74 in the silence.
Yeah. Mother, Father, God, Great Spirit, I ask for this abundance, this heartfelt offering to be multiplied. And may every person that gives receive the true blessing that only comes by giving. And may it all be for the benefit of all the sentient beings, seen and unseen.
So next is the church affirmation on your cards. We totally accept the belief that God is in charge of affairs and direction of Lake Superior Interfaith Community Church. We know that as our thoughts of trust and joyful anticipation join in harmony with the thoughts of all the members of this fellowship, we attract the right ministerial leadership to our spiritual community. And we are grateful. Yay, thank you. And so now we'd like to finish with singing, I think it's 303. And God be with you. What did we forget? 380. Oh, it's on the way. I was forgetting. 383 for me.